There are more than 60 keywords and abilities that have been introduced to Hearthstone since the game was released. With each new expansion, the pool of keywords and abilities expands just a little bit, and with over 60 mechanics, not all of them will be winners. But which mechanics are the worst in Hearthstone's history? Here are my choices for the worst Hearthstone keywords and mechanics. Coming in at number 5 for the worst keywords and mechanics is Side Quest, a type of card introduced in the Descent of Dragons expansion. Side quests were a variation on quests, with simpler to complete requirements from regular quests and smaller rewards as well. However, unlike quests, these did not start in your opening hand. This made them absolutely terrible top decks later in the game, and due to the minimal reward that many of them offered, a huge liability to add to your deck. In the end, only 1 or 2 of them ever saw any competitive play. Next up at number 4 is Adapt. Adapt was introduced in the Journey to Ungoro expansion. When you adapted one of your minions, it allowed you to discover an ability such as Wind Fury or Divine Shield to give to that minion. This was another example of a fun and flavorful mechanic that Blizzard just couldn't seem to find the right balance for. While there were a few Adapt cards that were strong enough to see play, if you look at all the available Adapt cards, you remember any of these? Yeah, me either. Coming in at number 3 is Echo. Echo was a mechanic introduced in the Witchwood. If a card had Echo, you could play as many additional copies of that card as you had mana. And what is becoming a bit of a trend, Blizzard was obviously worried about the power level of this mechanic, as many of the cards with Echo were just overcosted and completely unplayable. More than that, Echo caused so many issues with cost reduction effects that they had to change the way that ability worked to not allow the Echo copies to cost less than 1. On top of that, there have been numerous repeatable this turn cards since Echo came out that would have looked cleaner with the Echo keyword instead. Coming in at number 2 is Frenzy, a mechanic introduced in Forge in the Barrens. Frenzy is a triggered ability that triggers the first time a minion takes non-lethal damage. I feel like this will be a controversial take, but I felt like Blizzard really wasted some opportunities with this mechanic. Most classes lacked a way to make this trigger reliably, so the only cards that saw play were minions that had Rush innately. I just feel this mechanic lacked the legs to make it a full set mechanic. Alright, one more to go. Pause the video now and tell me what you think the last one will be in the comments. I'm pretty sure some of you who have been playing Hearthstone since the beginning will be able to guess this one. Coming in as my vote for the worst mechanic in the history of Hearthstone is Inspire. The main mechanic in the Grand Tournament expansion, Inspire was an ability on certain minions that gave you a certain effect whenever you used your hero power while that minion was in play. There were several huge issues with this mechanic. The biggest issue was that it just wasn't super exciting or fun to play with. Having to wait until you had an extra 2 mana to get a bonus from your card was a really awful feeling, and on top of that, the effects you received from Inspire were rarely worth the tempo loss of spending 2 mana on your hero power. It just felt bad to play these cards, and very few of these cards ever saw play in Constructed. Just as egregious as the effect these cards had on Arena, where certain tempo-based Inspire abilities would snowball games completely out of control. Balanced poorly for Constructed, balanced poorly for Arena. Somehow, Inspire managed to be both too weak and unexciting and too powerful and oppressive all at the same time. Well done, Inspire. Well done. As one of the first sets Blizzard ever released, I'll chalk this up to Blizzard still figuring things out. So, what do you think? Did I get this right? What mechanics or keywords would make your top 5 worst mechanics and keywords in Hearthstone? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for stopping by the Peaceful Sea.